In this video, we are going to discuss and show examples on how to sketch the graph of parabola in the form y equals a quantity x minus h quantity square plus k. Remember that this one is the standard form of quadratic function. Okay, so let's go to our number one example. Number one, we have, let us say, y equals negative 2. Then we have square plus 8 equals, that's it, plus 8. So here we have a is negative 2, then h is 3, then k is positive 8. So what we need to know is, number one, we need to know the opening of the graph. Okay, so in the opening of the graph, you need to look at the value of a. So if a is greater than 0, therefore the graph opens upward. If a is less than 0, therefore the graph opens downward. So as you can see, a here is less than 0. So we expect that our graph, the graph opens downward. It's number one. So it looks like that our graph looks like this. Okay. So that's our first expectation for this graph. Next important feature of this is the x-intercept. Okay, so the x-intercept. When we talk about x-intercepts, these are the values of, these are the intercepts or points on the x-axis in which the graph touches or crosses. Okay, so when we say about points on the x-axis, it means that the common term with that is, if we say points on the, let's say this is our Cartesian plane, say this is our point on the x-axis, every point on the x-axis, y is always 0. Okay, so that's the logic here, that we set this one to 0. Then we solve for the x-intercept. So we will set this into 0. We'll set y into 0, this one. Then we'll solve for x. Okay. So that would be negative 2 times x minus 3 square plus 8 equals 0. Then we can do our algebraic manipulation. We'll have negative 8. Then we have negative 2 x minus 3 square. We can divide both sides by negative 2. So we are left with x minus 3 square equals positive 4. Okay. So extracting the square root of both sides, will have x minus 3 equals plus minus 2. Therefore, our x would be plus 2 plus 3, 5, or minus 2 plus 3, 1. So 5 or 1. So meaning the graph will pass through 0, 5. So the x-intercepts are, since y is always 0, 5, 1, 0. Sorry for that. We'll have Can make another color, I think. 1 0 and 5 0. Okay, so again, we're expecting that our graph opens downward, looks like this, and while going downward, it will pass through 1 0 and 5 0. Okay, 1 0 and 5 0. So number 3 is we need to look at the y-intercepts. So the same principle with x-intercept. Y-intercepts, no, there's only one y-intercept. Okay, in this idea. Okay, so the same principle with x-intercept. Y-intercept is a point on the y-axis. So when you say point on the y-axis, whatever point on the y-axis, x is always 0 there. So the same logic, we will set x equals 0. Okay, then by setting x equals to 0, we can solve for y. So we have y equals negative 2 x minus, sorry, that is, since x is 0, we'll have 0 minus 3 square plus 8. And I think you'll have, this becomes 9. Okay, this becomes positive 9 multiplied by negative 2 becomes negative 18, and plus 8 will have negative 10. Okay, so meaning going downward, the graph will pass through 1 0 and 5 0 on the x-axis, and upon going down will also pass through 0 negative 10. So the y-intercept is 0 negative. Okay, so we have that expectation, 3 expectation. Number 4 is the vertex. Okay, we need to find the vertex. The vertex, it's kind of a turning point of the graph, of the parabola. Okay, so it's like when the graph goes down from left to right, then suddenly it goes up. So this one is actually the vertex, the turning point. So if the graph opens upward, there is a minimum point. If the graph opens downward, there is a maximum point. Okay, that's the maximum. So the vertex may also be called minimum point or maximum point. Okay, so obviously the vertex, as discussed, that those are the values of h and k. So in this given, the vertex is 3. We'll highlight that, 3 and 8. Okay, so it says h and k. Remember that if the default is x minus, not x plus h, x minus h, meaning this, if this is minus, yeah, h is positive 3. If this is x plus 3, if this is x plus 3, therefore h is negative 3. Okay, because the default here is minus. So it's like setting this portion here to 0. Okay, it's like setting this portion here to 0. Okay, then solve for x. Okay, so we have 3 and 8. So our vertex is, okay, our vertex is, just note that 3 and 8. So the graph opens downward, and the maximum point is that 3 and 8. Okay, so that's the idea. Number 5 is the line of symmetry. Okay, why is it important to have the line of symmetry? Is that gives you the perspective of where to go, since both sides are being divided into two congruent parts by the line of symmetry. And as discussed before, the line of symmetry is the value of x equals 8, or the h itself is the line of symmetry. Therefore, the equation for line of symmetry is x equals 3. Okay, so going back in this a little bit of illustration here, that portion there, that's x equals 3. Okay, that broken line dividing this parabola um, into what they call this two congruent parts. So now, using these 5 important features of the parabola, let us try to sketch the graph. Okay, sketch the graph. So let's try. Suppose we'll have this. We can have, okay, so I'll say 2, 4, 6, then 2, 4, 6, 8. I'll say that one. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 6, 8, 10. Okay. So remember that our x our in letter A, our graph opens downward. Okay, so it look like this. Okay, then it passes through. Okay, it passes through 1 0, so it passes through here 1 0, and it passes through 5 0 here. So the graph will do like this. Okay, like that. It will also pass through the y-intercept will also pass through 0, -10. So it's very logical. So it's very, you can use your intuition that, oh, if the graph looks, if the graph looks like this and it passes through these points, so by just looking at this pattern here, it's impossible that your y-intercept will be positive. Okay, so that was 0, 10, so we can, okay, yeah. That's number 3 already. Okay, so number 1, we know that the graph opens like this, and it passes, number 2, it passes through these 2 points, the x-intercept. Number 3, it passes through the y-intercept, which is 0, -10 here. Okay, the number 4, we know that the maximum point, the turning point, or the vertex is 3, 8. So here we will have there. Okay, then the from that point we can create a broken line. Okay, or whatever line you have, even if it's solid. Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay, then we can start sketching our graph. So the graph looks like this. The sketching means we're simply looking at the general behavior of the graph with its important parts. Okay, so when we say draw the graph, we say we use by graphing using tables. Okay, so this is the parabola look like. It should be a curve, not a line, not a 2 points, each point connected by line, but the points should be connected by a smooth curve. Okay, so this is our general picture of our graph.